Hi, everybody. My name is Jared Milrad. I'm the founder of Movie Karma. We're the nonprofit organization that created our podcast here called Rewriting Hollywood, which focuses on diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation, as well as social impact in Hollywood, using the power of storytelling for good. I'm really excited to have two special guests today with us and potentially others who might join during conversation today. They are Pat Branch, director, as well as GloZell Green, joining us from the Los Angeles area today to talk about their new project, Worlds Apart, which is a new LGBTQ plus series that focuses on a headstrong, sassy, but sweet gender fluid millennial who has had nothing short of a rocky life and starts to make some self-destructive choices that ultimately lead to a greater perspective. So I'm really excited to talk about this project as well as its impact on the broader LGBTQ plus community and beyond. And all the themes and issues that this project takes a look at. So, GloZell, Pat, really excited to have you on. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Absolutely. So let's dive in. I wanted to start off, as we usually like to do, Pat and GloZell, with a little bit of background on each of you. It's helpful, I find, for folks to know a little more about your journey and any bumps that you've had along the road and how you overcame them. So let's start with you, GloZell. Tell us a little bit, if you would, about yourself. I know you folks, I'm sure, know of your work. You've been a YouTube personality, you've done stand-up, you've done a lot of interesting things in your life. Tell us a little bit about what interested you in that journey, and talk a little bit about some of the obstacles you faced along the way.
Okay. Hello, this is GloZell. Is you okay? Is you good? Because I want to know. I started off with people always saying that you're funny, and then I dabbled in some stand-up, and that is where I honed in my comedy. I enjoyed that very much. But when the internet came around, YouTube came around, I'm like, well, I don't have to go to the nightclubs. Like, I don't have to go out. We can put funny stuff right here. And nobody would join me because it was all about, this was very new. I'm what you call a OG, because it's like one of the original ones, because people who did comedy usually had the one standard set, and that's what they would travel with. But if you put it out there, then everybody already heard it, right? So that really took off for me. And the bumps in the road that I've had most recently, since like 2018, is that, it went from no one knowing you to everyone knowing you, to making all this money, to everything being changed, how they pay you, how you get seen. And so, that was a huge adjustment. And I feel like I'm just coming out of that. Before we started, like, how you doing? I'm like, I feel like my life just switched, like, okay, you've done your shadow work, is what some people call it. And now, whoo, yay, I can breathe again. I've been, got divorced in January. And my daughter and I are fine. She starts schools tomorrow. We're all good. I'm in a good place, good solid place.
I like that. I like to hear that. And I want to dive into more of that in a minute, because I think I'm sure you've had some insights along the way, as you mentioned, with just being at the beginning of really YouTube celebrity personality and content and what that's meant. Pat, let's go to you though. Tell us a little about your journey. I saw you're a director. You've done some really neat work. I know this project sounds like it's really close to your heart. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Did you want to become a director at enter entertainment? What sort of sparked that interest for you?
Oh, no, I used to be a novelist, and then I started, when I was sending my work out, the feedback that I got from literary agents and editors suggested that my work lent itself to the screen, that it was so visual, the way, my style. So I just went ahead, and I needed a degree in something. So I went to film school and because I thought everything I ever heard about people that wrote movies, they were always like, they changed everything, and a lot of whining. So I thought, well, maybe if I knew how the medium worked, I could then write it better. So I actually went to film school just to learn how movies were made, so that I could write scripts that would that could stay true to what my intent was with the story. And then I the very first script that I wrote, the first draft of the very first screenplay that I wrote, quarterfinaled in the Nichols Fellowships, which was the first time I got any kind of validation as a writer, and that was kind of cool. And then I moved out here and proceeded to, because I was like, yay, I'm going to be the next Joe Esterhaus. And that didn't happen.
Okay.
You know, I mean, most of the great thing about, you know, working with Jarrett and Love Wins is the inclusion. And as we know, Hollywood tends to be a bit more exclusive than inclusive. So in terms of telling stories about marginalized communities, but that's how I got my start. I did go to film school. It didn't even occur to me while I was doing it, though, that I was learning how to make a movie. So that's only recently occurred to me, like, you know how to make a movie, right? You actually studied, because it was a very thorough film school. It was in Temple University in Philadelphia, and that's where I'm from originally, and you just learn everything from sound to editing as well as recording, and that's kind of how I got started. And then I met my friend Fitz, and we made the documentary Joel's Catch 1, and that ran on Netflix for 3 years. I associate produced and co-wrote that. And then in the midst of all that, I met Jarrett, and we started working on his feature film, Donna, and I co-wrote that. And we had just such a nice alliance that he asked me to direct the pilot episode of Worlds Apart.
Love that. And for our listeners, Jarrett, referring to Jarrett Martino, who's
Yes.
really helming this great production company called Love Wins Productions, as well as the film festivals, which we had a project part of. So that's really exciting. I want to talk also more about the work that Love Wins is doing, and that you're all doing with their work and with their production company. GloZell, I want to go back to you. You talked a little bit a minute ago about just the ups and downs of the YouTube world and the social media world. You've had obviously a lot of really popular videos and content on there over the years. You interviewed President Obama. I was fortunate to work for a number of years. You've interviewed a lot of really incredible folks, hundreds of millions of views. But talk about, if you would, GloZell, like what were those ups and downs being in the YouTube space, and talk a bit about expand, if you would, on the changes you were mentioning around payments.
Oh, okay. The ups and downs. Well, it's interesting because before YouTube and the internet, paparazzi was like these people you didn't know in cameras, hiding in the bushes or everything. But now everybody has a phone, and my fans they were very, very young. So you've got people who are just taking pictures everywhere, which was fine for me, but it really hurt my social life and hurt like friends, because they didn't want their pictures up. I had friends that a therapist or a doctor's here or that, and it's like, oh, I saw you hanging out with that girl with the green lipstick, in their sessions, and it's just like, oh, so socially, that hurt one aspect, but that comes with the territory. But you're thinking just for yourself. You're not thinking about anybody else that was around. And that was a problem at one time, because people didn't understand the internet and they didn't want to be on it. And what is it? It's just predators on there. And like, no, that's one of the issues with being one of the first ones. Nobody was out there like that. And I'm putting everything out of it. No, this is where I am. This is where I go. This is where I live, So guess what? People showed up where you are, where you live, where you go. I'm like, oh, okay. That. They're ordering pizzas at your address so you can open the door. Hey, of course you're gonna take the food, but all these little tactics. So you learn to be a little safe, but you still put yourself out there. And downside was definitely the money, because you could put up with almost anything when you like, hey, I could just go into this gated community or this, whatever, if you want privacy. But when all that is gone, and and you still living like this, you balling, and you're like, well, of course, like the money's gonna come. I've been doing hit after hit after viral hit after viral. Then they change how people see it. You're just like, but you see it happen to other people. Like, how did you mismanage your money? How did you let other people? You just like, I'm not gonna be one of them. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I am totally, don't know what happened. What happened to the money? I don't know. Now you owe all these taxes and you're in debt. And now you're getting divorced, and the divorce is very expensive. And you're just like, oh man, how am I gonna make it? And then the people who you thought had so much money, or your friends that are famous, some of them, where are they? Chirp, chirp,
Right.
Where some of them are faking more than like, you're just like, but I thought, well, you in this house, yeah, but I'm renting, a room in it. When I film, I film in the whole house, but I don't own this house. And so I'm looking for a place to stay, and I'm calling up celebrities and I'm realizing like, oh, okay, a lot of us are in the boat together, I understand that. But then the pandemic hit, and then it just went from like bad to worse. Like now there's no auditions. We don't even know if you're gonna live if you go outside. You got to wear a mask, and nobody's coming up to you. And I didn't realize that until we took the mask off now, more so. And now people like, hey, GloZell. But that was like 2 years. I'm like, nobody remembers me. Nobody knows what. I wasn't thinking like we were covered up. I had a mask on for 2 years.
Right.
So it's and that represents, taking the mask off represents a lot of things that's going on right now. And it's just so much better. And I really enjoyed doing this project because it was one of those things like, oh, yes, this is doing something good. I'm helping somebody else. And while you're helping somebody else, it helps you. And I met such great people. That was it was really nice. And it was real needed. And whoever cooked, the food was good, when we're on set.
I think that was Renee.
So it was like a nice little family going on there for a great cause.
I love that. And thank you for giving us some insight on, and also just on your journey with, because I know with a lot of creators are dealing with a lot of what you're describing right now on TikTok, on other platforms, in terms of, being treated fairly and equitably. And it can be really tough to navigate that. So let's talk about Worlds Apart, this project. And I'm actually going to bring in Reante, I think, who's already us. Reante, wanted to bring you in here. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey? I had a chance to just a moment ago talk to Pat and GloZell about their journey before joining Worlds Apart, and talk a little bit about some of the challenges or ups and downs you faced along the way, and how you navigated those.
Thank you so much. My journey has been quite interesting. Just to give like a little family background, I come from a family that supports me and my gender fluidity, and just wholeheartedly just being there for me as my foundation and my strength. With that in mind, that encouraged me, of course, when you do have that family support, to get an education, to accomplish those things, in reality, but also within my community, the LGBTQIA community, being a role model and trying to set an example within the community, because, a lot of LGBT members don't have that luxury of having that family support. We hear several stories of members being disowned by their parents, and it's a lot. So based off like my mom, my family presence, my mom is pretty much, I like a mom to a lot of my friends, even throughout my journey, being able to show them that, if you're not getting the love here, there is love here. And my challenges, it has been quite interesting, because like in high school, I wasn't really out the closet. And even though like my mom knew, but like a lot of other people, like they knew too, but like I never like really had like a coming out, because I felt like, people already kind of knew. And but also I felt like it was nobody's business either, especially in school. And I just didn't want my sexuality to be a problem when it comes to like accolades and, being picked over for like leadership or just homecoming or just anything in that sort. I just didn't want people to refer to me as Reante the gay boy, but as Reante a person. So my journey of building who I am today was making sure that in education or in leadership or just in personality or whatever case of inspiring folks, is that they know who I am in a mix of all of that versus, anything that can, that can be viewed as negative, right? And so I have experienced, I tell my friends told me I should write a book, but I've experienced, even within my own community, a lot of, I would say a lot of, I would definitely say it's like hate, you know what I'm saying? Even within the LGBTQI community, especially in the Black gay community, there is a lot of homophobia within, which is shocking, but within the mix of our own, the own culture, and with the feminine versus body shaming and people downplay femininity, and especially now gender fluidity. A lot of people they act like they don't understand it, but it's been here for years, and so and so even within my own community, act like, oh my gosh, like this is like so absurd, and I think for me, like what really shocks me is even within the trans community, like you would think like within the trans community they would understand gender fluidity, but even sometimes in that community as well, it's stuff there as well. So it's just going through that versus the heterosexual community. I really didn't have like a lot of issues with the heterosexual community. I felt like they respected me more than like a lot of my own community, which is, I don't know, it's weird.
Wow.
But just basis off that has definitely been a challenge, especially now in the ballroom scene as well. That's a whole different beast in itself. With that kind of industry as well. But being able to deal with all kinds of people, like I actually teach my niece this, you're going to meet all kinds of individuals in the world, and you have to learn different personalities. Some personalities you're not going to mix with, some personalities you will. And throughout my life, I've encountered so many different kind of people where it's like now I'm based off energy. You can just feel someone's like energy if they're for you or if they're not for you, or if it's like some kind of hidden agenda and things of that sort. But with that being said, I've experienced people trying to set me up. I experienced almost being human trafficked. I've experienced just like even like people that you call friends going through different variations of friends where a lot of people really aren't your friends. A lot of jealousy I've experienced with folks. Like you be genuine with folks, but they're not being genuine back. It's a lot of things in that order that I definitely have experienced. Even when it comes to work, being feminine within the corporate office, sometimes they don't allow you to get promoted because, if you have a degree or you have an education, they don't want you to get further to someone else that may not have it. So I've been experiencing that. I have been sexually harassed within a corporate office where, the boss was making passes and, wanted me to do things just to get a pay raise. And, I've experienced a lot of those different things. So definitely taking that journey and being able to, share that with others so that, they know how to cope through that. Because a lot of people don't know how to cope through that. Some people just give up. Has been, very inspiring to others, if that makes sense. And I just thank God that I'm still here, to be honest, even just dealing with all kind of like people. And I think from this standpoint and just showing people like you could still be successful and great no matter what kind of people you inquire or people are trying to do or anything of that sort, you know, even if your parents is not giving you that love, there's other people that's out there to show you that. And I think for me, even having my own gay kid, well, you know, in society, we have our own little personal gay children, and just being a role model to my gay children, definitely inspire them, you know, so that they know what right and wrong is, and that it's not a generational curse. I see a lot of generational curses that happens even within the Black gay community and in the ballroom scene. You know, they teach people negativity, but they're not really teaching them the positivity and how to really maneuver. And I just think like my family and just myself, you know, being able to keep encouraging myself to be great, so that I can channel other people to do the same as well.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that, and just giving folks a sense of your journeys. I think it's really important for people to understand your perspective and what you bring to this project, which I understand, you know, you serve as the lead in this project, Worlds Apart, which does raise awareness and shed light in the Black, trans, and gender fluid community, and really looks at the impact of shame within the LGBTQ plus community. So before I throw it back to GloZell and Pat, Reante, did you want to, or could you share just a little bit around what attracted you to this specific project, Worlds Apart? Why did you feel like it was so important to be a part of it?
For me, I just love the fact that I'm able to tell a story that's opposite for me. We see, you know, within the Black trans community or just within the community, you know, escorting is very popular, prostitution, things of that sort, and just playing a role that's opposite for me, for my journey, and put myself into someone else's journey. I like that challenge, and I've seen it I have friends that have experienced the lifestyle, that kind of lifestyle, and, you know, just being able to put myself in their shoes and be able to, you know, to give that peer review and that perspective. I think that's what really attracted me to this role as well. And then also too, with Jared, you know, with him sharing me his personal journey, and what inspired him, you know, with this movie, that definitely inspired me to really tell this story in that aspect as well.
Love that. Thank you, Reante. Pat, I wanted to go to you as a director here. What attracted you to this specific project, and what was the vision or approach that you wanted to bring to it?
Well, for me, I teach at a youth facility we have a lot of students that are what Reante just described, where they are victims of human trafficking and they are gender fluid. And so it was a way for me to expand my knowledge, to teach adolescents that are dealing with this on the daily, to bring what knowledge I have because of working with these students, but also to expand my knowledge of the community. I'm actually, for a very, very long time, I've been a volunteer at the LGBT Center, which is now, I mean, that's, you know, so many, it's so inclusive that there are a lot of letters. So my whole thing is to represent everyone and to expand my knowledge and my understanding of people outside of my little box. And so that was what drew me to the main thing is Jared asked me to direct it, and I'm like, yes.
Nice.
There was that. And then I got to meet Reante and I got to meet GloZell and work with them. And that part was really exciting too. And just to explore and then the therapy, the whole thing about the EMDR therapy, I think I got the letters right. I'm a little dyslexic when it comes to acronyms and letters and stuff. I can always mix them up. But the whole thing of a new way of getting people to tap into their center for how can you live your life authentically, and how can you take charge of your life and live your life without but not living it by other people's rules. And that there's nothing wrong with being a man who wants to wear a dress, and there's nothing wrong with being a man who wants to kiss another man, and conversely there's nothing wrong with anybody. I just feel like just to be free to love yourself which then makes you free to love others and receive love. That's the big thing, is being able to receive love, because you've done so much work on yourself. So that's kind of what drew me to the project, was the journey of this boy who's sometimes a girl, who's sometimes a boy, and how he navigates when he wants to be a girl.
Yeah, I love that point about Pat, about freedom and the ability to live and move through the world however we want to. And it's such an important message, I think, especially for young people, but really for anyone. GloZell, wanted to bring you in here. What attracted you to the project? What did you want to piggyback on what Reante and Pat just said, or were there other aspects of this that really excited you?
Well, definitely because I've worked with Jared before. So when he asked, of course, you want to be supportive. Now, when I not only that, my boyfriend's in the movie, because he's in. Well, I'm not gonna tell the story, but he's in. I'm like, guess what you're gonna do today? You know, I'm like, yeah, just go with it. And plus, you know, Pat, you said there's a lot of letters. I always felt like there's one missing, and maybe it's F, is friends. Because there was a time where it's like, well, I'm cool with the gay, lesbian community, but I don't, but my friends, my family, not. So, you know, I felt like I was in a, and in another different kind of closet, because I'm like, I don't want you to know that I'm friends with, you know? And I don't want to cry, because I feel bad for being that type of person. Like, I'm cool with you, but you need friends, you need allies, you need people. Yeah. So I'm always going to be like, yes, because you can't do it by yourself. You know, you need other people outside of, like you said, your little box. You know, so I'm down to help my community, because we're all a community, because I've got family and friends who couldn't say, you know, or gonna get beat down. I'm from the South, you know, like that kind of a thing. So I was always like, okay, yeah, but you gonna take a picture of us? You gonna put that picture up? You know, like, I'm at the parties, we having a good, hey, auntie. But wait, you gonna tag me in that? But now I feel like I've come out. Like, it's, you know, like, and I've lost some friends, and that is fine, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why overall I'm like, I'm gonna be a part of it, and I'm gonna wave the flag. We're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna tell a good story.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that, GloZell, and I think you're right. I think, you know, folks have to come out. Folks come out in so many different ways in their lives, right? And we all have a journey in some ways of sharing our truth or standing up for those who are more vulnerable, right? Yes. And Reante, I want to bring you back in here. Like, what do you hope is the impact, just building on what GloZell and Pat said? Like, what do you hope is the impact then of Worlds Apart, in terms of folks watching it who may not be familiar with, you know, what it means to be gender fluid, what it means to be trans, what it means to be Black, or what it means to be any of those things? Like, what do you hope audiences, you know, take away when they watch this?
Well, I'm gonna touch bases. So, like, I wanted to add as well, like, part of my journey, I actually have my own, like, personal brand, which is called Ultimate Boy Girl. And then also I have, it's called Mythical Being. And I've been on social media for years, and like really producing like gender fluidity, best of both worlds. It's okay, you can be both. You know, back in the day, like, people used to say, oh, you can't be a boy, you can't do both. It's one or the other. Either you're gonna be a masculine boy, or you're gonna be a full out girl. You can't, there's no in-betweens. But I think through my personal journey, even on social media, being consistent, showing different looks, showing self-love, which is key, because I feel like a lot of people miss that point. They forget what self-love is. And bringing it back to Worlds Apart, I believe that seeing the strength that the character is bringing forward, relatable journeys that the character is bringing forth, and understanding that, you know, the character is self-love, like, you know, definitely that family support. You see the, you know, mother really supporting, you know, and that strength alone is pushing, you know, the individual of what love is and what strength is. So I believe that the audience will take this and say, hey, regardless of how my beginning has started, there is a finish which I can finish off strong and still be successful at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. Pat, what about for you? Like, what message did you want to impart with this, and what do you hope folks take away having watched it?
The main thing is to recognize our own inner prejudices that we have, and recognizing them, acknowledging them, and then actively changing them. Like, you know, your whatever your preconceived notions are. One of the most amazing things that ever happened to me as a Black person was when I was a student at USC, and there was a somebody that in the university housing where I was who was a virulent racist, but somehow or other he and I got along. We would argue. I would toe the line. No, that's not the right thing. I would cross the line. I wouldn't let him say inappropriate racist things, where to the point where, you know, he'd say something stupid at a party, and I just get ready to lay into him, and everybody's like, ah, it's a party. And I'd be like, okay, so I back away. And then there was this one instance where it was just the two of us, and in talking, he mentioned that when he was 17, he wanted to join the Ku Klux Klan, and I was like, oh, that's very different. I didn't get that memo. And through the course of the conversation, what he admitted to me, because I'm like, how are you sitting here talking to me like being civilized and kind? And he said, well, I've learned a lot from knowing you, and I realized if I'm going to hate somebody, I perhaps need to know them. Which people said, well, that's weird. I'm like, well, no, what he's saying is that you just can't blindly hate people. But what that taught me is that you can actually save the world, but we can only do it one person at a time, which means we all have to actively work to save the world. Every person that you meet, every connection that you make, if somebody says something that's not right, you have to be willing to tell them that it's not right and why. And and not challenging their belief systems, but just saying it's okay if you don't like gay or trans or bi or lesbian or anything. You don't have to be that. But what you can't do is tell somebody else how they can be. And and for me, that's what I hope that Worlds Apart does, because it's about, you know, you're talking about Worlds Apart. It's like, well, how do we bring those worlds together? And how do we make people comfortable enough in their own skin that they can make somebody who wouldn't be comfortable in their skin at least be comfortable being around that skin? How do you make people understand that it's okay to like somebody that's completely different from you for no other reason other than, and then I go back to GloZell's word, the F word, we have to have all kinds of friends. It's all about being friends. That's all. Even if it's your family, you know, you have people in your family that are your friends as well. And I think that's what it is like, how can you be friends with yourself and then be friends with other people so that they want to be friends with you? How are people drawn to you no matter what you are, that they just want to know you, and they want to tap into that positive energy that you exude just by being. That's what I hope Worlds Apart we were able to do.
Yeah, that, again, I mean, just boy, do we need that message now more than ever, don't we?
Right?
The idea of connecting and listening and not doing snap judgments about folks that we don't know and their experiences we don't know. GloZell, I wanted to give you the ability to add here. What do you hope folks take away from this? Because I mean, you've reached a lot of folks over the years with your work. What do you want people to take away after watching Worlds Apart?
Well, one thing I want to say, aren't you just tired of hating? Like, it's just it's so exhausting. It's tiring, and you know, and you're missing out on some great fun, great people. You know, like, you're missing out. And I want to say, Reante, I thought it was just wonderful that your mother was there. You know, I'm way older than you, and I've been in rooms where people said stuff, and I didn't say anything, and I'm from I guess a family that I've heard a lot where we don't believe in gay. And I was just like, how do you not believe? Like this person is that? How do you not believe it? Like not even believe it, you know? So I've come a long way of my voice of what I can do. So if all I do is like, oh, we're gonna click on this GloZell's in it, then that's my part. And that's what I want to contribute. I want people to watch and get the message of love.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, GloZell.
Message of love. Yeah, thank you for that. Last word here. Question we like to ask and end on is really like, what is your hope individually? And we'll go around the room around this notion of we hear about diversity, equity, inclusion, representation in the industry through storytelling. What is your hope for where storytelling can go, and hopefully Worlds Apart, a part of that, in terms of the type of stories you'd like to see? And Reante, I'll start off with you.
I believe in this notion called the invisible hand, where this is pretty much tied what Pat said, where allowing the people to figure it out. There's many different kind of worlds. We have subcultures, we have all this different diversity, we have all this different adversity. I think what makes the world beautiful is the fact that we're all different. And we're not yes men, we're not all agreeing the same thing. We all have our own minds, we all have our own interests. And I think allowing people to be themselves and allowing people to actually see visually, especially grown adults, see visually what love is, regardless of who you are, and actually just being kind and just being around individuals that are different. I think people will have this mindset that, maybe I'm being judgmental, and really taking prejudice they have experienced either through race or either through even work class or whatever kind of prejudice. I think people need to take those kind of prejudice and actually apply it to themselves and realize, like, well, what am I doing? If I'm experiencing this and I'm also doing this other person, this is the kind of karma. Do I want to continue to have this karma? And I think through the invisible hand, allowing us to figure it out and just seeing beautiful stories, not just, sad stories. I feel like people need to see more self-love where parents is accepting their kids, which is why I love the fact that my mom, comes to the ballroom scene, comes on set or just comes with me so that they be able to see that, all individuals don't experience that kind of adversity, being disowned and et cetera. Yes, that is part of our story, but there's other individuals who are loved by their parents as well. And I think seeing that will kind of encourage other parents to not be so embarrassed. Because I feel like with parents, they are embarrassed because they care about what other people think. It's not so much about the sexuality. I think it's the fact that it's been given such a negative connotation that they care about what society thinks and what society is going to do to that individual once they find out.
Yeah, beautifully said again, Reante. And I think the power of seeing that support from a parent and seeing that support from family, and I think just what you said about love and kindness is definitely, again, something we could use a lot more of in the world. Pat, before we end with GloZell, what is your hope in terms of the future of storytelling around inclusion and equity and representation? Where do you want that to head?
So many people have preconceived notions about groups outside their world, and it's all based on what they see on TV for the most part, or even in the movies. And so I think that if we can represent cultures in the movies, this is where we have to tell our own stories, because we know the idiosyncrasies that we grew up with that somebody might not have. And so it's like, for the longest time, I couldn't sell. I'm still struggling to sell my screenplays because they have this notion of what a Black woman should be or what a Black man should be. And I feel like, I always think about this. imagine how advanced we would be in this planet if we allowed every single human being to explore their maximum potential however they want to, as long as it doesn't hurt themselves or anybody else. And you know, you think of the Dark Ages, where for 800 years you couldn't do any art, and how suppressed that had to be for the soul. And my whole thing is liberty, justice, and equality for every single person. And in terms of telling stories, tell your story, encourage other people to tell their story, but don't try to tell stories that you don't know, because you're going to get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong. And unless you do extensive research, you're going to get it wrong. And that the best way to get the story right is to let the person whose story it is tell that story. And that's what I think, that's what I see as the future of storytelling. It's great that we have these little digital masterpiece or pieces of electronic in our hand, where you can make a whole movie with a cell phone, a smartphone. And I think that's the future, is that, because, and that's what's great about TikToks, is that you have people just telling their own story, and you find out things you didn't know, and you unfind out things you thought, like, oh, I didn't know that kind of thing. And I think that's what's really important. And especially with you know, obviously we're dealing with a hetero white male Christian person who drives everything, and is really threatened by us telling our own stories. It's like, well, just, you know what, sit back and listen and be quiet and watch what happens. And you're going to just open yourself up to a whole new bunch of worlds. And you're just going to be laughing and singing and enjoying other human beings in a way that you never did before. Just don't be threatened. And that's what I feel like. If we can help people not feel threatened by truth, that's all. Just not feel threatened by truth. And I feel like that. And I just want to say, that's sort of the crux of what Jared is doing in terms of naming his production company Love Wins, is that love is what drives all the things that are positive in the world. And I think that's if we can get to that point where it's love-centric filmmaking, that's what I hope for. Thank you.
Beautifully said, Pat. Thank you. And you know, yeah, great points all around, including around, you know, knowing which stories that we should tell, and which stories others should be empowered to tell. GloZell, I'll end with you. What is your hope for the future of storytelling, and in terms of particularly these themes around inclusion and representation, making sure that storytelling is more representative and inclusive?
It's more than hope. It is happening. The stories are there, you know, and we just be open to watch them. And also, stories also reflect what's going on in the world. Like, I've seen different signs for bathrooms, you know, that's being changed, and people are like, well, what's your pronouns? You know, that's something that, you know, that's more accepted. And so our shows and television and our stories are reflecting what's going on, and you can see that there is a change. It might not be as fast as we want it, but it's certainly way different than when I was growing up, you know. So, and so my daughter will, you know, have a more diverse group of people that she gets to know, you know, because not everybody's looking the same, trying to be the same, you know. And you can see different stories in cartoons, you know. Yeah. That I'm like, what? That's Nickelodeon. Oh, that's Disney. I can't believe it. And then we'll stop having, well, this is the first, you know, same sex thing in this. This is the first, you know, it just be, you know. So the stories are being told, and let's just keep telling them. And as a person, a friend, an ally, that's like, more of us. More of us.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us again, I guess, today. GloZell Green, Reante Brown, who starred in the new project Worlds Apart, as well as Pat Branch, our director here. Really an honor having all of you on our show, Rewriting Hollywood. Thank you so much, and I hope folks will have a chance to check out the project really soon. It's great having you all on.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.